Firearms news is everywhere.
It is.
First thing we got to talk about is I have waffled back and forth, and I understand it's I'm like a politician. Buy ammo, don't buy ammo. You need ammo, you don't need ammo. I'm going with buy ammo now. The upcoming tariffs, if they stick, if they don't stick, I don't know what's today, April 9th or something like that. We don't know when the tariffs will be starting or being implemented or what's happening. But we do know we're not making a lot of the base components for ammo in the United States. There's not even a lead smelter here anymore. I think the last one closed in, 2013? And now they just utilize that space to recycle batteries. But ammo prices are going to be going up. Have you been buying ammo regularly?
Look, you don't have to pass sweeping tariffs in an attempt to reorganize the world financial order for me to tell people to buy ammo.
Right.
I always tell people to buy ammo. Now, I was the book report major. My dad's the economist. We could maybe get him on the horn and ask him about tariffs. But as you mentioned, a great quantity of the ammo that a lot of the people who shoot a lot shoot comes from outside of this country. Comes from Bosnia and Herzegovina, comes from Czech Republic, comes from all of the old SSRs, comes from Brazil. It's
Korea.
PMC, oh my
yeah.
gosh, of course, PMC. That's
Yep.
that's one of the bigger ones for, again, the regular shooters. The person who shoots once a year is not going to notice. Even if all of the tariffs stick on everything, ammo-wise, they're not going to notice.
Yeah.
These are people who fire 6 rounds a year, every year, have for the last 6 years, and they're not even through a box of ammo.
I'm going to look right at the camera and say, if you're one of those people, shoot more. Buy more ammo and shoot more. You'll become a better shot. You should shoot more. Okay.
But ammunition, from 22 all the way up through the long action center fires, ammunition is one of the only commodities that I have basically always made money on buying.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I buy more, the next time I get an email about how much it costs more.
Yeah.
So
I know we're sitting here in the office and you will just randomly holler out as if you have Tourette's or something that, hey, there's a free plus shipping, going on or free shipping with 1,500 rounds or something like, okay. So I have cases of 5.56 stacked in the basement, and I've actually built a small wheeled cart now to move them around so I don't trip over them anymore.
You're gonna get a pit pony.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a little horse like the old mining days that was born down there and will work down there and will
and we'll move my ammo whenever I need it,
Yes.
whenever I need to get to the workbench or something like that. But yeah, I think I don't know if we're going to see free shipping on ammo coming up or any other kinds of deals or anything like that. I think prices are going to go up. They're probably going to go up fairly quickly. People, if they're ethical, they're going to maintain the current price until they sell out of the current stock, but that could happen really fast. And we could see a 25% increase in ammo costs overnight. We are starting the run on ammo right now. We are ruining it for
dating
everyone.
back to 2008. I remembered seeing the runs on ammo and people who got caught short saying, I'm not going to get caught short next time. It's not going to get me with that again.
Yeah.
And then I remember the runs on ammo in 2012 and 2020 and et cetera. A lot of people get caught short every time. And I understand ammunition's expensive. I get it. And hindsight's 2020. Everyone wishes they'd done what I did, which is buy literal tons of ammunition during the Trump slump when everybody thought that maybe there was going to be a very anti-gun president, and then there wasn't. And I wish that I'd done what some other guys did, which is buy those 55-gallon drums of 5.56 back when it was 21, 19, 18 cents a round. But if you're where you are now, which I bet you are, you're going to be anywhere from short on ammo all the way up through somebody with a lot of ammo. If you're short on ammo, there's time.
Yeah.
There's time. Who knows? Like you mentioned, this is being filmed today. I almost thought we should do this like one of those old episodes of The Simpsons where they'd cover their face.
Yeah.
So they could put in whoever was going to play in the Super Bowl or whoever won or whatever, because we don't know what's going to happen. That's the whole point of doing this, is saying, look, we're not doing business the way we used to do business. Negotiations are now open. If you're short on ammo, and if you know people who shoot, you might be able to make deals with some of them, just because a lot of people did buy literal tons of ammo back during the Trump slump and have been sitting there looking at it for the last 6, 8, 10 years.
And it's still good, though.
And it's still good. I've told people when they ask, why do you buy so much ammo? I say, look, if you could find a way, if you went to the grocery store and they were selling 1-pound packages of hamburger for $1, and they had somehow managed to find a way to smash it down to the size of a deck of playing cards and it would last for 175 years, unrefrigerated, how many would you buy?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I did what I did during the Trump slump, is
Right.
because that's what that was. That ammo was so inexpensive that a lot of people bought it cheap, stack it deep, all the rhymes.
Yeah.
But plenty of those people would probably be willing to sell you some ammo right now because maybe they're tired of tripping over it. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll say, look, this wasn't some kind of Ralph Cramden get-rich-quick scheme. I bought this so I would have a lifetime supply of ammo for whenever I wanted ammo.
And, maybe the price has gone up and maybe I'm not going to say your friends would gouge you, but you might still have to pay what the ammo is worth. But again,
it's the only way you'll learn, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, the ammo lasts. We just recently had a photo shoot here in the studio and the call went out, hey, does anybody have ammo boxes from like 30 years ago? And yeah, I have old CCI Blazer boxes that my dad bought in the 90s and maybe even early 90s. And yep, I'm still shooting that jacketed hollow point aluminum cased garbage ammo, and it put rounds on target and it helps me, keep my skills good. So you're not going to go wrong buying ammo, but I'm just alerting folks. We're just alerting folks. Price is going up, and for all kinds of ammo, from standard full metal jacket through the hollow points, through the frangibles or any sort of specialty ammo, the price is going to go up. So people should be looking at ammo and searching online. You buy a lot of ammo online?
I haven't bought ammo online for a while just because
you have a lot of ammo.
I bought a lot of ammo back. No, I did. Yeah. I bought a lot of ammo back when it was very inexpensive during that Trump slump. But when ammo gets expensive is also the time for us to push dry fire training.
Right.
You can train at home. It's not going to be as much fun as going to the range and shooting, but you can train at home with a triple cleared firearm, make sure it's safe, make sure you're following all of the firearm safety rules. But you can train on your draws and your trigger presses, etc. Especially if you get one of the electronic systems that syncs up with your phone. Yep. You can still train. This is not an excuse to not train.
Yeah.
But this might be one of those parts of a cycle in which you got to just keep your head low, and you're not going to get to go shooting as much.
Yeah. And
the guy who only shoots the 6 rounds a year is like, oh, now who's the lunatic, huh?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know. Now is the time to only be shooting 6 rounds a year if you absolutely must.
And conducting your dry fire training, getting something like the Mantis system or the laser ammo system or something like that, and getting your trigger press and your sight picture and your draw stroke and everything, working on that. Why are people buying lots of ammo? Are we buying ammo for the ultimate demise of society, or are we buying ammo because we want to go to the range and shoot 500 rounds a week?
Wait, you actually want me to answer that? I think a lot of people, when I sit on a giant pile of ammo because I like to shoot and my family likes to shoot and I like to take new people shooting.
And you've built it into a large throne.
And I've built
chair.
it into a large throne, exactly.
In front of your TV.
Sorry, I'm the bad guy. But the reason that people are buying ammo is because I think a lot of them realize, that's a 30-round magazine in my rifle, but I'll refill that like 9 or 10 times at the range. That's 300 rounds. Yep. I need more than... A lot of people, ourselves included, probably grew up in households where there was a deer rifle or there was whatever, and there would be some part of a box of ammo. It's like Night of the Living Dead, where Dwayne Jones finds that rifle in the closet and he finds a shoebox with like 2 partial boxes of ammo. That's how most of us grew up, because ammo was always very expensive. Mm-hmm. I didn't grow up shooting. Ammo cost too much to just go shooting.
I was forced to sit at the press and make 38 specials, 148 grain wad cutters. I was cranking those out.
That press was uphill both ways. It was not easy to use.
Yeah.
But within my shooting lifetime, which is mid-90s through now, ammo's gotten way less expensive than it used to be. Mm-hmm. And I understand people fall for this all the time on the internet, where they see an ad from 1955 for whatever pistol for $79.50. Why didn't Grandpa buy 3? There's a lot of reasons why.
So he was making 78 cents an hour.
Yeah,
so
that was, our money was still worth something. But anyways, so a lot of people have been buying ammo over the last 10 years because they realize it's a reasonable way to store money. Mm-hmm. It's not going to go bad, as you mentioned,
right? And
it's something they actually use. It isn't like buying Krugerrands or silver rounds or something else where you get them, you're like, yep, that's what one of those is. I guess I'll put that away till I die. Like, this is something you can actually use or lend, give to friends, give to family members, etc. And it's almost it's short of a secular prayer, but it's one of those preps where people are like, oh, at least I don't ever have to worry about that again.
Right.
Like, this is going to help insulate me from blah, whatever it is that they're worried about. They think that this is part of the solution to that, whatever it is. And now they don't have to worry about that anymore.
And you're right. It is a means to store money. I can go to any gun show I want with a box of ammo and turn it into cash. It may not be that I'm making a 60% profit or even a 10% profit or whatever, but somebody will buy that ammo from me and I will turn it into cash. It will never be worth nothing.
Right. It's a lot like cigarettes in a war zone, where this is very difficult to improvise. This is very clear whether this is fake or not, and it is consumed in its use. So it is money in all the ways that matter, just like in all the ways that matter, tires are money.
Yeah.
And in all the ways that matter, food is money. In all the ways that matter, ammunition and components are money. We heard, how many people did we get emails from during the last round of ammo shortages? Ho, ho, ho. They say, I'm a reloader. I will not be taking part in your ammo shortages. And then all the components disappeared.
Right.
Like, oh, oops.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back and reply to that email like, hey, guy.
During the last shortage, I had people emailing me all over the country. Hey, Kevin, do you know where to get primers? I get everything else, but nobody's making primers. Well, they're making primers, but people are buying them faster than you.
That was as flattered as I have ever been in my life, is when we would get emails like, well, send some emails, see what you can do. Like, there's no ammo for sale in your local big box, but Combsy here and Kevin, we're going to get on the case and go rattle some cages and make sure that they make more ammo for
Tell
us.
people to install another line.
You
at their
listen
factory.
to me. All right, you punks. Here's what you're going to do.
Yep. So the long and short of that is buy ammo. Not just because of what's going on now, just buy ammo. If you have a life philosophy, part of that life philosophy should be to buy ammo. So you can, live, laugh, love, whatever kind of posters. I think we need a buy ammo poster that just goes on the wall that, in this house, we buy ammo.
Yeah. The difference is I need to be reminded to laugh and love and live sometimes. Yeah. But I remember to buy ammo. Yeah. I don't need a reminder to do that.
So speaking of firearms and the consumption of ammo, the internet lit up the other day with the fact that Glock is apparently discontinuing a bunch of models. And I made reference to, and everybody looked at me like I was the stupid old guy. I made reference to the old schoolhouse rock, 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Remember that one? 3 is a magic number.
I only remember elbow room.
Yeah, okay.
The only one I remember.
Well, I was looking over this list and it was just Glock model after Glock model after Glock model, just discontinued, discontinued. And looks to me like some of the bigger platforms, the 10 millimeters, the 45 ACP, the 45 gap, who would have thought that wasn't going to make it?
So here's what happened that day when that swept through our office like wildfire. I was looking at the same website where it was just canceled, discontinued, And then I looked up the search bar and I saw that was the European Glock site.
Yeah.
Huh, says I. So I hops on over to the us.glock.com and it didn't show any of them as being discontinued. Now, that doesn't mean they're not being discontinued.
Right.
What it means is that, I don't know, maybe somebody finally told the people who run Glock that people in Europe aren't allowed to buy handguns, but maybe they are being discontinued in Europe. What this made me think about was when old man Ruger passed away and went to join the rest of the gun makers' ghosts in the sky, things changed fast. All of a sudden, you could buy a 25-round factory Ruger magazine.
Right.
All of a sudden, any number of things happened that maybe while the old man was still in charge, they started making ARs because old man Ruger had some very particular attitudes about various things. And we have since lost old man Glock. And maybe we're going to see some similar pace of change at Glock. I mean, how long did it take them to get rid of the finger grooves?
Right.
Which made me not like Glock 19s. Glock 17 and 22 fit my hand like it was made for it because I have big hands and because the 17 and 22 were made for an Austrian soldier wearing gloves.
Right.
That's my hand. So now that he is no longer in the picture, unfortunately, God rest him, etc., we might be seeing, hey, how many of these 45 gap pistols did we sell in a year?
Right.
How many of the, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It would stun me if they got out of the 10 mil business, because those 10 mil Glocks are some of the most, if not the most popular handguns in Alaska that people carry for big brown bears. It would surprise me if they got out of the 45 ACP game, just because a lot of Americans like 45 ACP.
Popular. Yeah.
It's very popular here. I know it wasn't as popular in Austria, but guess what? That's because that's Austria. 45 ACP is an American cartridge. It is, to a lot of people, the American cartridge, along with the 38 Special. So we'll see what is and is not discontinued. But every now and then you got to prune the tree, man.
And it might just be a fact that, yep, there's, what's selling now is 9mm pistols. 9mm pistols are what's selling. I can see them discontinuing, slowing down on the production of 40 caliber pistols and things like that. But for a while, that was the quintessential American law enforcement gun, was the Glock 22 or Glock 23. And okay, so maybe that's gone away. Maybe things are changing. Maybe they're adapting to market conditions. Maybe at the upcoming NRA annual meeting, they're going to launch, the sixth version, the Glock 6. I have seen a picture when you enhance that there is a Glock stamped AR-15 lower out there. Somebody was working on it. It appeared to be at a Glock armorer's course. And if somebody posted that picture on Reddit, I bet they're probably not going to be invited back to the Glock armorer's course if in the next 3 months we see a Glock branded AR-15 out there.
Well, and there's a couple of variables here. One is the California registry. Like, you'll hear some people who are fairly new to shooting, be looking at something like, why does Smith & Wesson still make a Sigma? Oh, yeah, that's on the California list, which is, if you have a gun on there, it's a license to print money.
Yeah.
Like, it would surprise me if, obviously the Gen 3 can't last forever, but all the Glocks that are on the California list, they're going to keep making those.
Yeah.
At least for a while.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if Glock was like Colt was in the pre-World War II years, in which if Baldwin Felts or the Pinkertons or whoever said, hey, we loved those police positives we bought from you 8 years ago, we'll take another 300. Well, okay, even though maybe they'd change the police positive frame a little bit, maybe since the order was for another 300, just like there might be some of that stuff going on too over the next few years. Because to a great extent, you have to make what people want. But it does feel like this is a Ruger-esque situation, in that now that the boss has left them, maybe a bunch of stuff that he wouldn't have been cool with is about to start happening.
And I'm a big fan. I like to think I am the everyman, even though,
yes, indeed,
folks tell me I'm special. I think that's just because of the bus. But I like to think there's a lot of people out there like me, and I buy the early version, the early generation Glocks, because that's what I started buying. So I ended up with Gen 3s and Gen 2s, and you saw me recently purchase that Gen 1 Glock 17 frame to mix up some other stuff that I'm building in the basement when I move the ammo out of the way and things like that. So I think that there is still a market out there for the, let's call them the mid caliber, the 9mm guns.
Right.
And those Gen 3 models, people are still buying them. People are still, and we're looking at all the aftermarket parts and companies and stuff now. They're saying this is compatible Gen 1 through Gen 3. They're not building the Gen 4 or the Gen 5, or if it comes to pass, the Gen 6 stuff out there now. So it's an interesting turn of events that, but it might just be market forces at play, like you said.
Certainly could be. This is also, similar to when everybody posts pictures of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith and they're like, haha, your weird biker aunt came to visit or whatever. Yeah. Like, look, man, take it easy on this guy. His plan for when he was 75 was to have been dead for 45 years.
Right.
Like, there wasn't a plan for what to do once I'm 75 years old. Like, had you asked Gaston, like, hey, what's the plan for 2025? He'd be like, to have been dead for 10. I don't know. There isn't a plan for now. The plan for now is the old man's gone and we have to decide what to do.
Yeah.
And is that continue making Gen 3? Is that saying, pulling a Kel-Tec and saying we're not making any more handguns other than this one in our P32? Like, it's going to be difficult, but everything's always difficult. The only difference is this is Glock, this is the dominator of the American law enforcement market, and this is your and my favorite one of our favorite pistols.
Yeah.
It's one of my 80 favorite pistols, of
Yeah.
course. So we'll see. Time will tell.
And they're facing a lot of really direct competition now.
Yes.
From, Ruger with their new, the guy around here calls it the Glock killer, Ruger's pistol, Springfield Armory's Echelon. Tons of people are making duty style and then compact version striker fired polymer frame pistols with more bells and whistles than the original Glock. The original Glock was a pattern of austerity. What is it, like 18 moving parts or something like that in the entire pistol? It's people were calling them blocks. They're ugly, they're square, they're blocky, they're whatever. Okay. Lots of other people are getting into the polymer pistol, striker fired polymer pistol game. And yeah, Glock needs to compete.
I think it was Dave Petzel. This is years ago when he was writing something about Glocks in Field and Stream, oddly enough, said when Gaston Glock was going to design the Glock, before he did anything else, he listed out what it was a pistol was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And only then did he start designing. And that's how you ended up with something that, it didn't really look like much of anything else that had ever been done. But talking to some older guys who were on the job at the time, about half of them just said, no, I'm not
carrying that.
But the other half understood and were like, oh yeah, no, I'll take it. I'll take one of those. Once they realized how quickly it could be shot, how accurate it could be shot. The reason that the RXM, the Ruger Magpul crossover, boy, oh boy, one of the major ups that it has on an imported Glock, at least, is the sights. Mm-hmm. Always had to replace the sights as soon as you got a new Glock. Sometimes they just do it for you at the shop. Sometimes the distributor would do it, whatever. But they entered this country with polymer sights. Now, I feel terrible. I can't remember his name. We know a guy who's won shooting championships with box stock plastic sighted Glocks.
And yeah,
you don't need to replace the sights, but everybody did. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a quick.
They could break off.
They could break off. Yeah. So there's a quick $180, at least when I was starting to do this. And Ruger, not only is it a chassis system, but the Ruger comes out of the box with those night sights.
Yeah, really.
That's a big deal to a lot of people.
Really good looking sights. So we're on that topic now. Would you rather have a standard Glock and $1,500 to build whatever you wanted with it? Or would you like a Kimber 2011 with all the bells and whistles right from the factory?
Well, I can't be trusted with money because I would buy more guns.
Right. So we're giving you the money knowing that you will buy the guns. Okay. So you will not be judged.
So you're asking, would I like a Glock with $1,500 worth of improvements on it, or would I like the Kimber 2011?
Do you want to do the improvements? That's what I'm asking.
I've Glock improved myself just about out of interest for improving any more Glocks. So I am going to say I would take the Kimber 2011 just because I love a 1911 style trigger. They do have a 1911 style trigger, right?
Oh yeah.
Am I thinking of the right thing?
Let's open the box and take a look here.
Shooting vidges, we're doing an unboxing. Look at this here.
And the Kimber 2011, that's down in there. We'll just set the box down, not point the gun at anybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
1911 style trigger, all the 1911 style accoutrement, and a 17 round double stack 9mm magazine. So, and smooth and slick and wonderful and amazing and big and heavy. And yes, there's pros and cons out there.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. Yeah, I'll take this one. No, I would take this because I love. It's difficult when people want to yell about what's the best gun, because the best gun depends on what you're going to do with it. And obviously, this would work for everyday carry, but also a lot of people, they don't want to carry something with a flared magwell for everyday carry. They don't want to carry a double stack, whatever. I want you to carry whatever you want. This, I haven't fired this one yet, but it feels very good in hand, and I do like a double stack 9, but I've always loved the 1911 trigger because to me it's not a trigger, it's a button. Mm-hmm. Trigger is on my Model 19, a nice big long double action trigger. 1911 style is a button. So you have sold it to me, sir. And I would like to subscribe to your newsletter. How much would you like for one of those CRM 114s?
One of these One of the things I want with this gun is I want to get back out there and doing the run around and shoot guns competition, because this is very fun and very smooth to shoot and perfect for that for me. As you said, yeah, people who want to carry a full-size gun, this will be a big, heavy, full-size gun to carry, but it's super accurate. It has been incredibly reliable. I really love shooting this gun. When I carry a gun, I want something a little bit smaller. Back to the original topic, I'm one of those, let's see if I can tinker with this kind of people. I've ruined a couple of Glock frames with a soldering iron trying to stipple them and so forth and so on. But you've been to the Glock Armorer's course, have you not? Mm-hmm. So you realize that upgrading your Glock pistol, I mean, you can go to any of the aftermarket sites online and buy cool stuff, everything from the slide to the springs to the inserts to the trigger to the slide stop, and you can just swap it out and you can make it anything you want. And I did one in blue and gold as an homage to my Navy days. It's still great fun for me to just go and tinker around with that. I put on the XS Big Dot sights on one of the Glock 19s. I've messed around with it and made it exactly what I wanted, to the point that this is bad. I don't know how many.
Of course you don't.
I don't know how many
right.
Glock 19 pistols I have, and then combine that with at least 4 of the full-sized frame pistols, 22-17, things like that. Wow, I may have a problem.
No, you just give the same answer that Uncle Ellis did in No Country for Old Men. Oh, I don't know, several. Like, how many Glock 19s do I have? Several. How about that? How about don't worry about it?
Yeah,
right.
I have some. So
got a few.
I'm a build your own gun kind of guy, but I love that thing.
After I've hit both the table and the mic with it, what a lot of people.
Could you make more noise?
I could. Yeah. I'll give it a try. What a lot of people use these for is not only competition, but then you can come home, clean the gun, throw a light on it, and as a nightstand gun, these are terrific.
Yeah.
Double stack 9, nice, big, heavier than a polymer frame, so it's going to soak up a little bit more recoil. You don't have to worry about trying to hide it in your pants, so you can put a great big light on it.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm taking this over a Glock that I fiddle with and probably end up making work almost as well as a factory Glock does. I also I've worked on a lot of cars in my teens and 20s, and then when I could afford to have somebody else work on my cars, I had somebody else work on my cars.
And I've seen people at the range. I've seen range masters roll their eyes at the home customized Glocks, because they Glock's name logo is Glock perfection. Yeah, it works. Your box stock Glock will go bang every time you pull that trigger when you take it out of the box.
It was
once you start messing with it.
It was I think my home defense column like 2 years ago. I talked about a theory I've had for a while that like every time you go to the range and you see some 20-year-old with an SKS in a polymer stock with like a 40-round mag cobbled onto it and he can't get it to run, old man Simonov's ghost is bellowing down, "That worked when I gave it to you."
Yep.
And when you see somebody with an 8-inch AR pistol with a double beta mag, whatever the hell on it, that he can't quite get to run right, Eugene Stoner is screaming, "That worked when I gave it to you." And now old man Glock has joined Browning and Simonov and Kalashnikov and all the other ones. And now he gets to yell at people, "That gun worked when I gave it to you."
Right.
Stop messing with it.
I like your theory, and I'm calling it your theory of the home defense gun, the nightstand gun. I will give credit where I first heard it. Patrick Sweeney, who you have now met and worked with in the magazine, back when I was at my previous job in the early 2000s, I started there in 97, and that was one of the things Patrick had said was, yeah, my IPSC gun has become the nightstand home defense gun, because I think he had something like a 38 Super with an extended magazine and a light and some other stuff. And yeah, he had lots of bullets, good sights, good lighting, didn't need to carry it anywhere. And if somebody was coming through the bedroom door, they were going to be greeted in a hail of gunfire.
They'd hear a
and then,
beep,
yeah,
and then
yeah, and then the rapid reload,
Right.
and what's next. So
well, and that a lot of gun manufacturers have realized that. I'm convinced that Deeb from High Point realized that. As soon as we take must be convenient and comfortable to carry out of the equation, your options really open up.
yeah,
And at one end of the price scale, it's a High Point JP45, and at the other end of the price scale is something like this, where, yeah, you don't have to try to carry that with an 8 trillion lumen light on it in the front of your pants. This
Yeah.
is going to go in a safe next to my bed. So
yeah. So next question. While we're talking about the price of guns, do you want one gun that's really expensive and super high end, or do you want multiple guns that are sort of around that mid-range, anything from the Kel-Tec to the Taurus to even up into Glock, if you're not buying the Kimber or the Staccato or the the super high end made from meteorites 1911s.
is this in addition to the guns I currently have? Or let's
Right,
say this is theoretical old gunless Ed Combs, who doesn't even have one gun. Does he want either one expensive gun or multiple inexpensive guns?
Ooh, because that would, mess up the space-time continuum. But let's say Ed Combs just decides I'm going to get into the gun game.
Okay.
Walks into a gun store with $5,000.
I've done this with people in the past where there were several of them in 2000, in fact, who said, you know what, this is nonsense. I'm going to become a gun person. Can you help me out? And you have this type of discussion where they say like, well, I don't want a bad one though. Like, okay, yeah. You don't need to spend even $1,000 per firearm to get a good one. I'm a big believer in, and I spent a lot of time as a kid in the outdoors with suboptimal gear, which I think is one of the better ways to raise kids.
That's how you learn.
That's how you learn, is to give them suboptimal gear. I would never recommend that somebody buy a suboptimal firearm. However, and it's funny, just like every state except California thinks they invented, hey, if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Every interest, skill set, hobby, whatever, every single one thinks they invented, you don't need a $20,000 horse. You need a $1,000 horse and $19,000 worth of training.
Right.
I'm a big believer in find a gun shop that will let you rent. Find a gun that feels good in your hands, that make sure an instructor is telling you how to hold it so you know what feeling good in your hand actually means. They're above a certain level, they're all going to be fine. If you like Glock, if you like HK, if you like Walther, whatever, great, buy it.
Yeah.
Like it's the important part is have gun, and then we can work on everything else later.
Yeah, and I somewhere didn't get the gene or lost it or got out of control or became a hoarder or something like that, because that was the philosophy as I was growing up. At my home, we had guns. I believe if I add them all up, there were 6 firearms at the house. And then, like I said, I was in there cranking out the 38 special ammo so we could go shooting on weekends with the Ruger Security 6 and plinking and stuff like that. And I understood that buy a good quality firearm that will last and then invest the rest of your money in ammo. And I just completely abandoned that and was like, well, that looks cool. I need that. Well, that looks cool. I need that. Well, I need. And now legitimately 12 by 12 foot room filled to the point of, man, what am I doing here?
In your defense, a Glock 19 costs retail now almost exactly what it did in 1997.
Yeah.
So guns are cheaper than they've ever been. Ammo's cheap, even with prices going up, et cetera, et cetera. Guns and ammo were expensive when you and I were both growing up. So now when somebody asks, I want to get guns, should I get one really fancy one or should I get several middle road ones? You and I are both big fans of Mossberg shotguns. Those are some of my go-tos.
So I should have 5.
Well, you should have 5 of them, exactly. The other side of that coin of, hey, just get your rifle, your shotgun, your sidearm. Maybe you'll get a couple of small bore rifle or sidearms for training. The other side of that coin is the person who, no, I want one really fancy one that's really cool that people are going to like. And if the person I'm working on getting gunned up is that person, okay,
Yeah, then get him
Sure.
something really nice, and
Let's go with an expensive
gonna be
pistol,
great.
and
Yeah.
you can stand in front of the mirror with it and admire yourself backlit and
and
enjoy yourself immensely.
and then there's me who's like, well, when I was, before I went in the Navy, I guess, shooting Grandpa's original 1022 with the finger grooved stock, and the 1022 would be nice. Now I have 5 or 6. I can't remember because, well, I needed the carbon fiber barrel, but then I needed the really long, extra heavy barrel with the muzzle brake on the end, and then I needed.
You're gonna want that muzzle brake to tame that recoil.
Oh no, that's just for the extra long range shooting because I got the Hawk Sporting Optics bullet drop compensator 22 scope, so I could shoot my 22 at 200 yards. Ping, zzz, tink. So it's
like a prairie dog artillery stuff.
Yeah, it's
Good Lord.
And I just fell into that. Well, I need something else.
Sure.
And I got the first 45 ACP pistol, found it at a rummage sale, and a lady wanted it gone because her husband, who had died, had stored it in a bag of rags, and she found it. She was selling the rags from the garage, and there was the pistol, and she had to get rid of it. And hang on there, ma'am.
Here I was just trying to sell a bag of rags at a garage sale, and I found a gun.
Hang on there, ma'am.
How much was she asking for a bag of rags?
No, a small square box of rags that she pulled off the shelf, and was the typical 75-year-old newly widowed lady, who, I got to get rid of this, and I'm taking this out of his garage and just clean it up. And she set the box down and peeled the top rag off of it, and there lay this Spanish Astra A80. Yeah, I think it's an A80. Double stack SIG clone 45 ACP. And she lost her mind and had to get rid of it. That gun cannot be here. I can't believe he owned this. I can't have this. Just take it. And I said, well, I have to give you something for it. And unlike you, as a single man of means, I don't walk around with $600 in my wallet because I'm waiting to go to rummage sales and find guns. I had $48 in my wallet, and I gave her every penny I had for that firearm. And that got me into, now I own a 45. So I need 45 ammo, and I need holsters, and I need another 45 because now I need a single stack 45.
And see, hearing that story, I'm still stuck on the pistol in the box of rags, because to me, that means we need to open every other container in this garage, because that's either the only pistol in that garage or everything has a pistol in it.
Yeah.
But yes, you can, if you own more than guns, you've probably backed your way into like, well, okay, I already have one number 4 Mark I Enfield, so I already stocked 303 British, so I should probably buy that. Never going to see a deal this good on an Enfield again. Yeah, you can back your way into it.
That's how I got the 450 Bushmaster. I ended up with a box of 450 Bushmaster ammunition and didn't have a firearm to fire it. So rather than sell the ammo,
like an idiot,
buy the rifle and go ahead and go that route. So, different strokes for different folks, I guess, on this sort of thing. But I'm how did we start this?
We started this with, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or something?
Yeah. And it was, did you want
40 duck-sized horses?
Yeah, something like that. So either way, I'm one of those people who wants to work on his own guns, and this was a rather circuitous route to get there. And you are now a man of a certain stature who wants other people to work on his guns, and it's fine. We listen and we don't judge, or we listen and we judge accordingly.
Everybody gets to judge everybody. That's the rule. So I do work on guns. I'll do some work on guns.
I was not accusing you of refusing to work.
What I don't like doing is the stuff that, boy, if I don't do this right, this gun just isn't going to work anymore.
Right.
I'm all for, well, I recently threw something together for the magazine that you were gallivanting about with on the internet.
Oh, the
and
Charger.
I guess is yes. Yeah. So this past summer, I was at a range, public range, and they had a regular Ruger Charger, which is basically a 10/22 action in pistol form. leaves the factory with no buttstock. This is a handgun. This is not a rifle, but it's got an 8 or a 10-inch barrel and a bipod and a pistol grip. And it's fun for all kinds of stuff.
I'm thinking ground squirrels.
Yeah, it's fun for that kind of thing. But I see this, it was a guy, and I don't know if it was a kid or his nephew or whatever. And the kid loads up a magazine, puts it in, and starts hip shooting it at this target. I was like, well, that's exactly what I would do if I was 12 years old. And, I probably just finished watching some movie with a Vietnam era M1 carbine advisor style. But it made me realize, like, that's not a terrible idea. Because as a kid, I loved the old M1 carbine. Who was it? There were a couple of companies that made them, called them Enforcers. It's the Patty Hearst gun. Yeah. But it isn't the Patty Hearst gun. Before it was the Patty Hearst gun, it was Vietnam advisor gun, where it's often M2 carbine full auto, cut down to about meow big with a sling. And it was, in their context, it was more of a break contact weapon. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to get out of here right now. The fight is on. Hold that trigger down as you start to run, and et cetera. But the problem with hip firing the Charger was there's no sighting system now. Yeah, it couldn't hit anything. I don't think they leave the factory with sights because there's a piece of rail on top. You're going to put an optic on it. So I start screwing around, and I start figuring out what we could do to make a Ruger Charger better for people who can't use other platforms. Mm-hmm. And whenever we do this, it becomes borderline insufferable because, just to remind everyone, getting angry is a drug. People literally get high on getting angry, and they get very angry if you, a certain type of person at least, if you ever say that a .22 long rifle firearm could be, under some circumstances, a good option for home defense. We're not saying it's the best. Yeah, and we have said many times in the pages of CCM and in our videos, you will never see an American law enforcement officer suit up for a shift and holster a rimfire anything. Right. Period. The ammo is not reliable enough for duty use. We're not talking about duty use, though. I'd been keeping track over the decades of the problems, the specific problems I see people having in shooting. They can't hold their arms out for very long. Mm-hmm. They can't press a double action revolver trigger. They're elderly, or they have compromised hand strength. Pounds, right. So I can't hold the gun out, so it's going to have to be in my lap. Well, that could take autos out of the picture for you, because that reciprocating slide, that could really cause problems. It could malfunction if it hits you as it's trying to reciprocate. But the revolver isn't necessarily a good fix either, because you're not strong enough to, if you can press that double action trigger, it's not going to be staying on target because you're going to be putting everything that you have into it. Mm-hmm. So let me move this one out of the way. What we did, and that is an empty chamber and an empty magazine. Am I acting like what we did? You've seen this. Here's our. I'm hitting the microphone. No, everyone stop and calm down. Okay. Moving my chamomile tea out of the way. Chamomile? You ready? Yeah. All right. And reaching for the Charger firearm. I had so much fun with this. It was great fun to shoot. But as I was doing it, I realized, with this light and laser, and maybe I might put it on the side, maybe not directly on the top, that's open for debate. I could stand at 25 feet and put all 15 rounds on target almost as fast as I could pull the trigger. And I'm thinking, as a down the hallway home defense gun, or sitting in your chair and you got it next to you, or whatever, for someone who might be compromised, someone who might not have the ability to shoot other types of guns, this thing worked amazingly well. There's a couple reasons I liked it so much. I'll take that so I can show some of these off. The reason that I wound up putting this up here was because one of the problems that I've noticed over the years for a lot of people who are of advanced age, or they have hand problems, is a difficulty in curling their hands around things, obviously. Right. So rather than having it here, it felt most natural if you put your hand up next to this to have it on the top. You could put it on the side. You can put it wherever you want. That's the fun part about this. This is a Charger takedown, and you need to buy the takedown if you want to put this Midwest Industries forend on it. This works with a regular out-of-the-box non-takedown charger. You just end up putting the light laser unit back here on the top of the receiver. But if you want to be able to put a sling on it, which I think is a good idea for a lot of folks, a friend of mine who was in a chair for a few years, avid shooter, former gun shop employee, longtime instructor, one of the big issues is getting knocked out of the saddle. Like you that is not an option. And if you do get knocked out of your chair, you cannot get separated from your firearm. This is the pistol grips from the Ruger website, and we had to install that so we could install the QD sling swivel, QD up here, and this just goes around, hangs it right here in front of you. So you're not losing it if you do fall over. And as with any other home defense gun, so you can let go and it doesn't clatter down to the ground.
And that's where I was shooting it from out at the range, from the sling position.
And that,
as soon as I could find the red laser dot.
That's the other reason that I went with this rather than a different platform was you can keep this up against your body, down at your side, whatever, and fire because it's actuating here on the side. There's not a slide actuating back and forth. And I think we had some questions. Why didn't you do this with their 9mm carbines? Why didn't you do this, or the 9mm charger, excuse me? And that is because of recoil and because of magazines. Magazines are one of those funny things when I'm helping people optimize their self-defense and their personal defense plans. When they say, oh, I can't even load a damn magazine. That's rarely true. What they mean is they can't load all 15 rounds into that magazine.
Right.
So we have the same problem of, okay, you can't even load the magazine, but you can't run a double action revolver either. Like you don't have the hand strength to load a magazine. You don't have the hand strength to run that double action trigger, but you can load 4 or 5 rounds into that magazine, sometimes even 7 or 8. And some double stack mags, you and I know this, some of them, even with big, strong hands, they're a real bee to get those last 13th, 14th, and 15th rounds into. 10-22 mags are different, and they are not as difficult to load, and you can get an Uplula or any other device that you'd like for loading them. So, yeah, half to start a fight with the internet, and half out of earnestness, I put this together, and a lot of people have really enjoyed it.
And there has been some fighting on the internet when
on the internet?
Yeah.
How long has this been going on?
Well, it's one of those things that you don't often see, Ed, but it's out there, just insidious under. And that first photo of this operation came, and people were arguing about whether or not that was truly a 15-round magazine, and you know, the 10-round Ruger magazine just disappears when you put it. We're not lying to you on the internet. We're telling you what we built and what we got. And yeah, am I going to call this the perfect home defense weapon? No. But with a lot of people, there is a group of folks who could use this effectively, and it would be not only better than nothing, but highly effective. With 22 long rifle, you're putting 5 or 6 or 7 40 grain hypervelocity 22 rounds onto this bad guy. He's not going to stand around and argue with you about the caliber.
And you mentioned magazine, and that was one of the reasons, with all the other weird changes I made to this, I left it at the 15 that it shipped with. Seems like with as much as that's drooping out there, seems like it should hold more than that if the 10 round is flush, right?
Right.
Okay, well, the magazine release on these newer 1022 patterns is a lot easier than the old one.
Yeah.
And the 10 round magazine is flush fit, but the flush fit one is harder to take out if you have hand strength issues. The 25 rounder, the BX25, sticks out another couple of inches, and now it starts to get ungainly. Now it's going through a hallway with an AK with a 30-round magazine.
Right.
Bump down to the 20. Get that tanker mag if you're going to be using an AK indoors, etc., as plenty of instructors will tell you. So this is optimized for persons with poor hand strength or who are otherwise physically compromised. And you post a picture, you're shooting it on the internet, and 90% of the comments will be 12-gauge buck. Like, okay, yeah, that's congratulations. I understand that you like 12-gauge buck. That's not even kind of what we're talking about right now.
I would never use that. I have to have my, okay.
And good for them. Look, that's part of the fun of this is, I think we've touched on this in videos before, a great deal of discourse, firearms discourse on the internet is arguing about baseball.
Right.
It is no different than, would Ted Williams be competitive in 2025? Everybody likes to argue about that with sports talk call-in radio shows because it's zero consequence. And when you're arguing with a stranger on the internet about what they should use for home defense, neither of you have any skin in the game.
Right.
Like
yeah, you're not defending yourself.
Dude, you're never going to be in the same room with this gun. It doesn't matter to you, but it does, because people get high on being mad and because they're bored. Look, they need something to do. As my grandmother would have said, it keeps them out of the pool rooms. But
and I think they want to show the world that they're right and they know what they're talking about.
It's funny. We still get demands that somebody wants a call from our CEO. Somebody wants a call from you. Get that SOB on the phone. I want to talk. What they're demanding is that they be addressed as a peer. Like, sorry, man, he's doing CEO
stuff.
Doing CEO stuff.
He's
You're not a CEO. You're not getting on the phone with him. Sorry, man, I'm not giving you Kevin's phone number for you to be able to yell at him.
Thank you.
Well, I should say not anymore. No, I was in the room for the last editorial phone call that will ever be taken by the editorial staff. That's never going to happen again. But it is, arguing on the internet about guns is fun for a lot of people because it's zero consequence and it triggers the same stuff in their minds as arguing about sports. Mm-hmm. In Cuba, there are parks that are for men to go argue about baseball. That's how much humans like arguing. We really like doing it. Yeah. But it can be very easy to forget that not everyone is me. Nobody's me. Nobody's you but you, right? And a lot of people, they're not going to be able to run the gun that you did. Yeah. And I think in this past July column, I said, look, I get it. You were running a 20 gauge shotgun when you were 6. Congratulations. You are demonstrably better than everyone else in the world of shotgunning. You are a 4'10", 88-pound woman who's an avid 3-gunner. You're rad. Congratulations. Nobody else is you, and they're not going to be. So sometimes, even though I don't use one of these for home or self-defense, sometimes you have to go with something else.
Yeah, we're building something for what ifs, or for a very specific sequence of not just events, but qualifications and abilities. You can't, like you said, if someone can't pull the trigger, well, this gun is easy to charge, easy to load, easy to pull the trigger on, and deadly accurate at room distance ranges with multiple rounds. And you know what? Keep shooting until the threat stops. You got 15 in there. Go ahead and go for it. So, would it be my first choice? Nope. But if it is the choice that will protect me and the only one that I can use, or the one I can use most effectively, then yes, we should put together items like this and tell people, it might be a good idea if you need something.
Well, and that's the other part, that you want to pull the guy's head back up from the water to yell in his face. Look, man, if somebody is compromised to the point that all they can use is this for self-defense, guess who else wishes they could use something else? That person.
Yeah.
He wishes his hands still did what he told them to, like he did in the Marine Corps in 1950. But he's 90-some years old. He doesn't have his 35-year-old hands anymore.
Yep.
He has much older hands. So yes, everyone wishes that everybody could use an airstrike for self-defense if they're being attacked. Yep. But we can't. You use what you can use.
Absolutely. So we've been at this for a while, Ed, and the only other thing that I can think about right now is I'm watching gun laws all around at the state level. And, I saw the wild cheering and the parades and ticker tape and everything for the Bruin decision, and I stood back and shook my head and said, not the end. This is not the end of the gun control fight. This is the beginning, because they're going to come back with different ideas. And, state of Colorado is doing their craziness and stuff like that out there. I'm not going to list all of the weird gun laws that are going on out there right now. I just want people to stop and think that they need to get involved.
And this is where a lot of people, we get a lot of letters to the editor, just as if you listen to any local talk radio station, whether it's pro-gun or anti-gun. You remember transparencies from school?
Yeah.
Where it was a clear piece of plastic that the teacher would put on a projector. You could basically lay 90% of the calls that any talk radio show gets on top of each other, and they'd all line up. It's the same.
Yeah.
From anti-gun, but look at all these people that are shot every year. We need to do something. And from the pro-gun people, it's, Oh, okay. Another anti-gun politician voted for more anti-gun laws, and they have armed guards. Like, okay, yeah, we know this, and we know
Yeah.
this. But where most of the people who make those pro-gun phone calls fall short is they still think this is a logic.
Oh,
problem.
this is 100% emotion.
This is religious. This is a matter of faith with these people. It is a show of faith. They don't care if it isn't going to do anything. They are going to lay hands on for no guns and do anything they can to punish any gun owner under any circumstances, because in their minds, in their religion, that is their obligation.
And to be clear, I wanted to get to that, and you did well. We were talking about the anti-gun forces. That is their religion. That guns are the issue, and it's not that if a person drowns in a swimming pool, we should get rid of all swimming pools or something like that. The thing I'm trying to impart on folks is, there's a good body of pro-gun law out there and some really great pro-gun Supreme Court decisions. And those don't mean anything until that state law, which is going to limit your magazine capacity and limit your firearms types and limit all of these other things and force you to get a permit to buy ammo. And what's the latest one now is that suppressors can be fall under the auspices of gun control regulation because they're not guns. So does that mean triggers and barrels and safeties and all the other components? We need to continue to be vigilant and not just say, yep, this is over. The Bruin decision solved the gun control debate for us. It didn't.
No, it restarted it, basically.
Right. It gave the anti-gun folks ammunition. See what I did there? It's like a gun thing. Gave the anti-gun folks ammunition, made them angry. And now that they're angrier, they always were angry. Now that they're angrier, they're trying different things at different levels, at the state level, sometimes even right down to the local level and things like that. So I continue to add this into other videos that I'm doing, is to let people know that, hey, this fight is not over. Those sorts of people who, hell yes, we're coming for your firearms. Yes, we're coming for your AR-15s. Yes, we're coming for your handguns. They're still coming. Even though the Supreme Court has made it really, really clear that firearms ownership is an individual right, and it should be based on the traditional practices over the years. Did we have a law that restricted the ownership of such and such a type of firearm or whatever at the time this was written? No, we didn't. These are the intent of the founding fathers of the founding document was to make sure people were armed to protect themselves from whatever, whether it be a tyrannical government or bad guys lurking in the shadows. And we can't give up on that.
I would argue maybe it was even more so about a tyrannical government than bad guys lurking in the shadows or bears or alligators. But yes, similar to other rulings of the hopping back to the 20th century, Supreme Court can say whatever they want. They're going to have to come enforce it.
Right.
There were lots of states in the Southeast and even the West and even the Northeast that after certain changes were made, they said, yeah, that's cute. You can come make us do that.
Right.
Because that's not what we do here. And the feds said, okay. And then they showed up and forced them to do it. I don't want the feds to have to show up and force anybody to do anything. I want people who vote, who own guns and believe in gun rights, to vote for pro-gun politicians. That sets off a lot of people. They get very angry. They accuse us of being Republican shills. We're not. We are not. We are just telling you, if you feel strongly about guns, talk to the people you want to vote for and do everything you can to make them into a pro-gun politician.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of the pro-freedom politician, the person who doesn't want to be involved in your personal business. And gun ownership is a personal thing. You choose which guns you want to protect yourself, whether it's a Charger or the 2011 or whatever it is. You get to choose that. And you then have the responsibility to use that firearm legally and ethically and morally and not go out and rob and pillage and cause problems. But you have it there if somebody else decides, I'm going to rob that person today. I'm going to try to kill that person today. I'm going to take what is not mine because I don't want to work for it. And I'm bigger and stronger and faster. Oh, but that person has a gun. So thanks for coming out, Ed. I noticed you shaved this morning.
I did. Stood close to the razor and everything.
Yeah, I was running a little bit late, as is usual on a Monday morning. But
are you doing one of those like no shave March things, or?
It's April now, isn't it? No, I just.
Is it April?
Yeah, it is.
Oh wow!
It is almost mid-April.
Man,
you thought about that because it's snowing this morning again.
I thought about that because it was snowing this morning,
and which means then Dylan and staff is going to drag me out to the range and say, it's not that cold. Go shoot these guns in the snow. And
we'll borrow a couple machine guns. And
I'm going to whimper and cry about, how can I complain about having this job?
Yeah.
I mean, first world problems. Oh no, it's below 40 degrees. I can't go shoot 500 rounds of ammo today. No.
I mean, that's also a third world problem in some places.
Yeah, but I'm living pretty good.
Living pretty good.
Yeah, and thanks again
even
for
if
being
it is
here.
April.
Yeah, April, and
that one snuck up on me.
A new record for snow after a 70-degree day here in Wisconsin. So
nice.
We have more snow than ever before.
All we ask is that we get better. And
right,
we just
just a little bit better, 1 degree every day. Thanks again, Ed.